All right, I have the giant "You Are Live" button. So welcome, families, one more time I'm a little sad. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the final Office of Student Transitions Caffeine Chat of the summer 2020 season. I hope, just again, thank you so much for everybody who's logging on tonight to join us. I have a super special guest. We're going out with a bang with the end here for this final round. Sean Stallings, who's the Vice President for Student Affairs here at the College of New Jersey. Sean, welcome to our awesome parent chat here. So excited to have you on. And I feel like we need to show up. We need to give a shout out to our mugs. We have really good mugs here tonight. So mine's a little Ocean City, New Jersey, Reddy's Coffee Shop. Put it in the group or in the little chat if any of you are a fan or have been to Reddy's Coffee Shop and Restaurant in Ocean City, New Jersey. But that's mine. And Sean, what do you have?
I am sporting a nice Hershey's mug. Reminds me of those summer days when I take my young boys up to Hershey Park.
I love that. I actually had a girlfriend who took her two little ones there last week, so they're up and hosting, I guess, at this point. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and get started. We have a lot to cover in the last hour, and just some housekeeping items. Welcome for those of you who maybe this is the first time that you're joining in here. We're so glad to have you, and obviously, hello to all of my veteran parents who've been keeping the chat going. Jeff, yes, you did notice that my mug was a bit smaller than in previous weeks, but it does have actual caffeine. The tea is full-blown tea and not decaf tonight. So so thank you for noticing that, Jeff. But let's go ahead and get started. So housekeeping items, if you've logged into YouTube, you can put your questions in the chat. Sean has about maybe 15-ish minute presentation. He's going to kind of cover a general overview of what is the Division of Student Affairs, right? Who falls into it? What's the method to the madness behind how student affairs really complements academic affairs on campus, and really giving our students that kind of balanced experience both inside and outside of the classroom. So Sean's going to talk a bit about that. I will continue to answer questions in the group chat to the extent that I can. So again, thank you for your patience. They're going to cover a whole bunch of stuff at the end. So topics I'm going to talk about towards the end of the chat that I'm not going to be answering questions for during include Welcome Week. So the schedule went out to the students yesterday, and I'm just going to walk you through what we've got planned for them coming up next weekend, and a whole bunch pertaining to fall programming. I think the really important takeaway with a year like 2020 and everything that has been going on is that your students' transition will it never really ended with Welcome Week, but we are really taking Welcome Week and extending it well into and throughout the entire first semester here at the college. And there's a need for that this year, more so than ever before. So I really want to make sure that you're aware of all those opportunities that we're going to be offering the students at that point. And then we're going to tackle into just a couple of miscellaneous questions that were provided through the question submission form that was in the RSVP email that you received a few days ago. So saving all that to the end, I'll try to answer the questions that we can in the process, and I think we'll go from there. So big week, right? It's always amazing to me how I see you every Sunday night. It doesn't feel like it's a long time, but week to week, so much continues to change. And Sean and I were just talking about that before we went live, how, man, every day here it could bring something new. So after Governor Murphy's executive order was announced and signed last week, that prompted a host of questions from the parents, that most of which were pretty cleared up with President Foster's email to the campus community on, I believe it was Friday. So those executive order, it just was announcing some new changes pertaining to education specifically with regards to the ongoing pandemic. If you didn't get a chance to read the president's email, if your student didn't share that with you, it's on the Fall 2020 website, and I'm going to post that because I think it's just really helpful to take a look at kind of the rationale. We are still moving forward with an entirely virtual experience for the fall semester. If you also then didn't get a chance to go to one of the town halls that were live the week prior, so this was last week now, 2 weeks ago now that she hosted those town halls, there were a multitude of different reasons that TC&J pivoted and decided to go into the virtual, to do a virtual and online semester for the fall. And I thought that Dr. Foster just really did a tremendous job at outlining all of those and the impacts that it was going to have for the students in our campus community. And if you haven't gotten a chance to watch it, I know it's an hour, but it's really beneficial and it's going to provide a lot of context, because some of the questions that were submitted from the parents had to deal with, well, why were we doing this and why are we still online and why is that? I really encourage you to do that. So I'm going to put the link to the fall 2020 website again in the group chat for you to, or for the chat here on the side for you to be able to take a look at that. All right, I think I'm done with housekeeping. I've talked more than I wanted to. So Sean, I am going to share the screen and we'll get your presentation up and you will be ready to go. All right, you're all set.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so delighted to be welcoming in the next class for the College of New Jersey. This is an unprecedented time, as we all know, and dealing with this pandemic, and we're all trying to figure out what's the best way to respond, to keep our students safe, keep our faculty and our staff safe, and our community, our surrounding community safe, and and to ensure that we're able to deliver a top-notch college experience for our students, and all of those remain priorities for us. I thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the collegiality that is being expressed by the fellow families who are, I see in the chat, who are talking to one another and giving tips and resources on how to make the transition. So fantastic, and welcome to our family. So without further ado, I'll get started. Here at the College of New Jersey, I oversee, as the Vice President for Student Affairs, I oversee a particular component of the division at the college called Student Affairs. And our mission of Student Affairs is, next slide, please, next section. I'm going to show the mission. So we believe that our students will positively change the world. And so that kind of is a core part. So we drive through that to create opportunities, experiences for our students with this constant pursuit of excellence. And we do this through quality programming, services, and facilities. These are things we try to attend to on a daily basis. As we look towards the future, these are the things that we kind of look at when we're thinking about capital planning to be able to deliver a great experience for our students. Next slide. So what does the VPSA do, the Vice President for Student Affairs? So we serve as the Chief Student Affairs Officer, providing senior leadership to the division, as well as counsel to the President as a member of her cabinet. We provide quality leadership for quality assurance, so all the things that we have to do to ensure that we're doing it at top tier level. We plan, monitor, adjust budget allocations, and then in particular, I have most of the auxiliary units at the college reporting to me. So those would be things like food service, vending machines, et cetera. And so we look at trying to leverage those to help us achieve our mission. We also recommend and develop and implement policies initiatives that we believe foster the educational programs for the college. And that also attends to the holistic development of all of our students as individuals. And specifically, we're directing units through the attainment of the division's mission. So as I said earlier, how we achieve the goals of our institution is through the individual units that I'll share in just a bit. Next slide, please. So when we're doing our work, most of our staff have studied student development in their graduate work, and those who haven't, we even continue to teach it as we actually go into our work on a daily basis. So we look at student development, and it's development versus change. We're not trying to change people; we're trying to develop them and cultivate them. So it's organization of increasing complexity. Student development talks about growing processes, increasing the students' capabilities. And next slide, please. So we use theory to accomplish this. And the theory talks about growth and development of students equal is the central goal of higher education. We try to transform education into knowledge so it becomes a common part of the student's experience. We use common language amongst our professionals so we know what we're doing when we're working with students individually. We enhance our programming plan and our policy development using theory, things that we believe uh, achieve the developmental aspects of the individual. And we try to describe behavior, explain, predict, and control what we think will achieve the student's growth and development. And it's often reflection as well. Next slide, please. So one of the common theories that we use in particular is change and support, or challenge and support. I'm sorry. And challenge and support is you kind of take an individual, and instead of just giving them exact the answer, you challenge them on that. So as our students are involved in student organizations, or if they're dealing with challenges in the community, whether it's in the academic realm or outside of the academic realm, we challenge students to wrestle with those and problem solve, and then we support them along the way. So if you think about this, this is what you would do with a child who you're teaching to tie their shoe. Eventually, you show them how to do it, you teach them how to do it, then eventually you start to encourage them to do it themselves as opposed to always tying their shoe for them. So ultimately, as the students are growing and developing, they develop the confidence and ultimately the skill set to be able to accomplish what we hope they would, their full potential. Next slide, please. And so just that's kind of this one, if you look through, it's kind of small on your screen, but if you look through the central line, the black line of this theory map, if you will, is from challenge and support. And there's an intersectionality of all the various theories that people use in their daily work, whether it's psychosocial or topology or cognitive, racial and identity development. All of these theories sort of interweave with and challenging and supporting students. And sometimes students aren't necessarily aware of certain things that they're experiencing as it relates to maybe their identity, and our staff helps them with that growth and development. Next slide, please. So in student affairs, I'll just briefly cover. So we look at our strategic plan over the 5 years, and we're kind of coming to a close very soon. But we're looking at leadership, diversity and inclusion, resilience, building support, and health and wellness. Overall, if we are focusing on those core items, then that will achieve operational excellence and ultimately lead all of our units working cohesively to achieve the division's goals. And so student affairs at the College of New Jersey is comprised of four core areas, which includes athletics with over 40 sports. We have 8 facilities, and we're responsible for the management of those individual facilities as well, which would include our aquatic center, our recreation center, our Lion Stadium, etc. We also have our Dean of Students, and in the Dean of Students, we provide care, is what we call our support for students of concern. So a student who may be challenged and not sure where to go, they can always go to the Dean of Students. And if that student requires more support, maybe they're dealing with um, a loss of a grandparent or something, then we'll check in on them so that all that work happens with our care office, and then we'll provide ongoing case management out of the Dean of Students office. We also do Title IX out of there and student conduct out of the Dean of Students office. Moving over on to health and wellness covers the mind, body, and spirit of student development, and that it includes student health services, mental health services, anti-violence initiatives, as well as religious and spiritual life, and our recreation programs. All are housed in the health and wellness unit. And then lastly, student services. Student services are many of the auxiliary units that I described. So it's our Broward Student Center, our student housing, in our dining program and our laundry programs. All of those units are considered auxiliary, and they are housed in our student services. We also have campus life, and so that's the fraternity and sorority life and student organizations and student involvement, and provided in the student services. I think we're coming up with the end of that. So, yep. So just a kind of a brief overview of the Division of Student Affairs. Again, I'm happy to be here, and look forward to answering some of your questions.
They have been coming in
I'm
fast
sure,
and
I'm sure they are.
so I have a couple preset ones that I am going to toss to you first, and then we have a couple more to toss your way before we get in here on some of the things that I wanted to cover. And I think that the first question that I want to ask is kind of from where you sit. What are one or two of the more common mistakes that you see new students and families make? And obviously, part two, what can they do to avoid them?
Wow. So I think something that I would say is common is that our students are very talented. And I think, but maybe a common mistake, I think, in the first semester in particular, is midterms always creeps up on the students. And they come up so fast. I mean, it's around Halloween. It just sort of jumps out of the darkness and surprises students. And what's happening, I think, is that students who are transitioning from high school to college, they've had the opportunity from September to June to learn the entire content of the instructor's syllabus. And I think what happens in college is that expectation now is from August to usually the end of November, early December, and the professor now expects you to go deeper. So it's much more content and it's a deeper level of content that the professors expect at the collegiate level. And so when they're getting those midterms, usually is the first surprise, like I need to get in, I need to study. I wasn't studying as quickly, and it's a lot of the social life. It's a lot of maybe the depth of the work might be initially overwhelming. And I think what the advice I would give to students, and I always tell them is, listen, I've done this, I've struggled, and uh, don't take that for granted. Don't take that time. It seems like you have so much time. Is in high school, your time is so sort of cut out for you. But in college, it's very different. You're in class maybe twice a week, and so I would, and then seemingly students are up until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So they're finding those extra hours. And I'd say don't use those hours wisely. Enjoy your life for sure. But also I would say study every day, even if you don't have the class. Prepare. And I always encourage students when they attend a class, go to class prepared with questions based on the readings. And even if they already know the answer, even if you already know the material. And I encourage students to do that because I think it does, one, keeps them connected. So even though they feel they may be caught up, they know they're going to ask a question. I think you're listening more intently for the opportunity to ask that a question. And also you're letting the professor know you are engaged in the material. And you also it also serves as an assessment point to ensure that you are understanding the material as well as you think you are. So I think each of those are opportunities for the student to remain engaged, connect with the professor, and do just fine.
Yeah. That's great. I wish that somebody had told me that. I was the 4.0 high school graduate who failed a class her first semester of college and definitely could tie back to that midterm. That midterm snuck up on me big time, but I think
It
it's just,
does. It really
you
does.
just, yeah, you don't know how to study. It's relearning how to study, and the tips that you had in high school aren't necessarily, they don't work for you in the same way sometimes when you're at the college
Yeah.
level coursework.
See,
So yeah,
you're better able to sort of what I call memorize material in high school, and then but in college you have to learn it. And
yes,
one, you're going to see it again, and then secondly, because the depth of the material that in college is different. So in high
yeah.
school, particularly for really smart students, their recall is very strong, so it's not terribly difficult. So yes, I would absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to report that grad school classes are going much better than my undergrad days did. I was much better as I was a bit older. So thanks for that. Just a fun question before we have one or two kind of more nuts and boltsy things. What's your favorite part of your job?
Wow, so as I described what I do and what I oversee, it's a very broad portfolio, and I think the most fun part of my job is the fact that it is very broad. I can wake up in the morning, and by the end of the day, I can do budgets, I can do student mentoring, I can do supervision and development of staff. I can work on programs. I can do construction and contract negotiations. There's so many different things that I can do in one day, and go home and feel satisfied, exhausted, and I also think it sort of secretly, I think it satisfies my attention deficit. I can do it anywhere. I can bounce from item to item and thing to thing, and it doesn't matter much because they all are my responsibilities. I have to do them.
Yep.
So I'm bouncing around to all things in a given day, but I enjoy it, and it's rewarding.
Yeah, I love that too. It's like no 2 days are the same, even in my neck of the woods. And I'm only one little office over here, but you wake up and you're like, okay, I know I got to do a couple of things here, but you have no idea what the day will bring, right?
Sure.
Awesome. All right. So one of the things I wanted to take a minute to dive in with you about. So we had a handful of questions that were submitted ahead of time. And one or two that have been popping up in the chat tonight about kind of accessing campus in the fall semester, right? So a few people asking about how can they, can their students study in the library and what's that going to look like? Could they potentially eat on campus? Could they sit in the student center and study? So do you want to kind of touch base a little bit from your perspective, kind of, sitting on cabinet and being involved in all these conversations over the summer, kind of to chat a little bit about what that's going to feel like, at least to start, because knowing that, obviously, as the virus has been ever changing and the response has been ever changing, the president has been very candid that, that if we have an opportunity to bring some of the new students for a one-day program or to get them on campus in some capacity through kind of my office and some others, that's ideally what she would like to do. But can you talk a little bit about what in the meantime the expectations are going to be for students that might be thinking about coming to campus and coming into spaces that we have?
Sure. So we intend to open the library, and we intend to open the Broward Student Center. And those spaces will be open for studying. They'll be open for research, if you will. However, everything has to be done in moderation and modified and in moderation. So I'll start with the Broward Student Center. So the Broward Student Center normally would be open from 7 a.m. till about midnight. And it's mostly operated by student staff. So we will have very limited students on campus to begin with, and very limited student staff. So the hours of operation will be significantly reduced. However, when it's open, and we haven't quite finalized the hours just yet, but we're looking at a Monday through Friday schedule, and we have removed much of the furniture, and so we're trying to create spaces for students who may be coming on campus, maybe taking a respite if they're in the area, so they can come in. It's obviously air conditioned, and students can have a sit down, but keep themselves far enough apart. So that's the goal, is to create those kinds of spaces for students in our community, and then but however, it will be limited due to the hours we're able to operate because of the staffing. And now the library, what we're talking about in the library is also opening with the changes with the governor's office. That does give us some flexibility, and we wanted to open the library to allow books to be picked up, research in particular. And we're kind of finalizing some changes now that it's less about the percentage, because previously, maybe less than a week ago, we were thinking that we would operate the student center and the library at 25% capacity. And so some of the new guidance is that it's less about the percentage or less about the numbers of these spaces, but more about keeping people apart. So our library, our dean of the library, and his staff will be working on trying to figure out how to manage those spaces, to be able to have people come in, to pick up books, reference material, or study even, but maintaining physical distancing from one another.
That's great. Yep. I think that's super helpful. And obviously, as as things progress, Dr. Foster will continue to keep, the students in the loop and the faculty and staff about any changes for that. That brings me to a follow-up question that somebody had in the chat, and I forgot to ask you about this. It was on my list for us to chat about before we went live, and I forgot. I know that, so we have a staff member, her name's Susie Arecchio, and she runs our parent and family program. She's amazing. She's been doing it for a few years now, and she just had a baby at the end of July. And I know that she's on maternity leave. So the parents wanted to know, will there be an opportunity to do signups? Because there is like a quarterly newsletter that goes out, and there's a little bit of a passing of the baton now. So I get to hang out and get to know and help all of them now, and then we kind of transition them over into Susie's area. But I know that she'll be out for at least a couple of months. So are you aware yet, or is that something that maybe if you don't know the answer to, and that's fine, because obviously there's a lot going on, I could always follow up with the parents as soon as that gets flushed out in terms of getting them into the pipeline for the parent family program here at TCNJ.
Yeah, so you're right, Susie, so great colleague. And she manages our parent and family programs. And she had a baby on July 30th, and so she's out on maternity leave. And she's actually scheduled to be out for the duration of the fall. So we are challenged there, yes.
Yeah.
And the person I had who was going to provide backup support for her, is also out on maternity leave. So she's back in I think the end of September.
Okay.
So she needed to extend her time. So I was expecting her back this August, but she's extended, so it'll go into September. So once we get her back into the fold, we can start to ramp up some things, particularly our communication. It may be difficult for us to do our parent and family newsletter, but we will try to maintain the communications that we're doing with the email and the listserv.
Perfect.
So in the meantime, I'm sending out the listserv, doing the best I can to get it right. I believe I tried to send it out maybe 2 weeks ago. On my end, it told me it went successfully, but I heard many families say they didn't get it, so I was confused. I did it again this week. I put myself on the list and then tried it. I got a copy, so I hope the parents who are signed up to the list indeed got a copy. And it's a little confusing when it says sent successfully, but no one receives it. So I hope I've
stressful.
Got it right. Yeah, it really is. It's embarrassing, quite frankly.
It's just technology. I feel like you can do it all right, and then you hit
software that I've never seen before, so I had to learn it and get it out.
Yeah.
But for those of you who are not on our listserv, you can visit the Student Affairs website, sa.tcnj.edu. And then there's a header for parents and families, and it's called Get Connected under that header, where you can add yourself to the parent and families listserv. And so what we do on our end is if we're sending out something to a master list, so it's all families, but we also compartmentalize you and then add you to a class here. So if there's anything that's specific to your particular class, and you'll get that for the remaining of your child's year here at the College of New Jersey, unless you decide to unsubscribe.
Perfect. And for my transfer families, you'll be able, you wouldn't be looped in with the class of 2024. Obviously, if your student is an incoming junior, you'd be class of 2022, and it would be the appropriate year based on that. And don't think that you are done with me just yet, families here, because even though I know, Sharice will be out a bit, I'm not letting go of you just yet. So if you have any questions, you can always continue to email my office, especially I think just kind of this year more than anything else with all the things that are going on. And that I would be more than happy to continue answering questions for you and navigating, especially these first couple weeks of the fall semester. So again, I just put the website, the Student Affairs website, in the chat for you to take a look to get signed up for that. And if you didn't get emails, or if you want to make sure you're on the list or whatnot, again, I'm here. Don't hide just because we're on our last caffeine chat. So thanks, Sean. That was really helpful, because I know that will be this has been a really engaged group and they have lots of questions. That's super, super helpful to hear what that interim plan will be for the next few months there. I had a really, Samuel had a really good question a couple minutes ago, about 10 minutes ago. He or she, I'm not sure which, wanted to say, which are the services most likely needed by students from student affairs that would be available in a 100% remote environment? So kind of just getting to the point of, you did that overview of all of the areas under your office. And I know the answer to this. The answer is an obvious yes, but you want to confirm that even though we're remote, all of those services that a student would be wanting to interact with your office or with the offices that fall under the student affairs portfolio, if they want to be able to touch base with us, they're 100% going to be able to do that in the virtual space.
Indeed, we are going to be available to our students and our families. And but I think if I understood the question correctly, what I think is probably the most important that will be 100% remote, and that's mental health services. Mental health services, we will continue to offer mental health services both for individual services as well as group services. And then I've actually just spoke with our assistant vice president who oversees mental health services this past week to talk about some of our group sessions. And I wanted him to be on the lookout to see if maybe some of our groups, if they're undersubscribed, to continue to work with students to see if we should be looking at developing new groups. And it could be new groups that are formed as a outcome or as a response to the current environment in which we're living in. So he is looking at that, but I think we want to encourage students to take advantage of those resources should they find that they need them. And if you do find that your students need them, I would encourage you to give them the space so they can participate in those sessions privately. Those are opportunities for students to really do some self-exploration and some intrapersonal exploration. And I think with that, if you can give them the space. So we did hear that some folks didn't feel quite as comfortable doing it at home versus on campus. But I think that's one that's really important. And sometimes you just need to check in and make sure that what you're thinking and what you're feeling is consistent with others. And I think those are some resources we'll continue to offer. But the host of other resources that we'll offer I think this might be a question that's going to come up about student engagement and student involvement, but we're looking at providing some opportunities for students to connect with one another in their community and in the institution as well in a virtual format.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, so I think I'm going to transition into a couple of updates I have. If you're good to stick around for a couple minutes and you don't mind, I'd love it. Just pop in whenever, I'm going to kind of give them that overview of what we're looking at going into the fall semester. But obviously you're in bigger conversations than I am. So if you have anything that you want to drop in and add, please don't hesitate to do so. And it's so funny. So I'm scrolling through the chat tonight, and I know that there's just so much frustration out there. I can feel it in some of these comments. And I think that the closer we get to the fall semester, the more anxious that people are. So I want to really walk you through at least what the next couple of weeks are going to look like. And I'm going to answer some of the questions that you have here. About that. But I was really, Sean, thank you so much. I think it's so important to kind of have that overview because even though we're a little bit in crisis mode right now, it's a very scary, crazy, lots of emotions fall semester, but their student will be here for a couple years, right? And I think it's still really important that even though we dedicate and we spend some time answering the specific, more acute questions and the answers that we need to right now, having that overview of all of the support services that the students will access through the offices in your portfolio, I think is just really valuable. So thank you for that. I'm gonna jump right into Welcome Week. So fun stuff. The students had their schedule sent out to them yesterday, and I'm going to throw in here the link to my website, which has the Welcome Week schedule on there now, so that you can go ahead and take a look and pop through. But essentially, we kind of, we created a 4-day program. So it's going to start with some programming on, I believe, Friday morning is the official kickoff for the 4-day program. And I'm going to walk you through kind of the rationale behind this. So normally in an in-person year, we have over, I think it's like close to 125 events over the course of, I think that's really just even the first 4 days, excluding academic welcome day. And they are overlapping, it's chaos. You know, I get some students who really love it. I have some students who really hate it and they're exhausted coming into the first day of class. But it tends to be this really big event. And there was no way that I could host 125 sessions online overlapping in the virtual space over the course of those 4 days. That would be horrible to ask your student and then expect them to be, you know, on their computer for 16, 18 hours a day or whatnot. So really what I prioritized is this, and I took a look at Welcome Week and I said, okay, there's a handful of mandatory sessions that all of the students that are coming in need as a part of Welcome Week. And we prioritized keeping those. These are speakers that have been contracted for 10 months, 12 months. I think I contracted one of them before Welcome Week was over last year. And they really set the tone for the expectations that we have of your student as a new member of the TCNJ community. And that doesn't change regardless of whether they're in person or whether they're online. All right. So they will have a session one Friday afternoon called A Better High with Dr. Matt Bellis. He is a psychologist / comedian. And he's going to talk a bit about healthy choices and mental health, a little bit more so than in previous years. This year, just given everything that's going on, but it's just a really interactive, fun way to kind of engage students to be talking about the resources and really making good choices and kind of getting into that mindset of how you're healthy living as a college age student now. So that will be Friday afternoon. Saturday morning, I don't have too many details on this yet because we just finalized details there, but Dr. Jamie Washington, who's a part of the Washington Consulting Group, will be doing a session called Building a More Inclusive TCNJ. So those are going to, I am speculating here, talking around topics of social justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and just the expectations and talking about how we want our students to really take part in being a much more inclusive space. And believe it or not, again, that inclusive space lives online, and it will for the fall semester. Just because their students aren't going to be here till the spring semester doesn't mean that we can start building doesn't mean that we shouldn't start building an inclusive community, before that. So that's going to start online, that work, and that will be Saturday morning. And then Saturday afternoon is called Can I Kiss You, which is by a national renowned speaker. His name is Mike Domish. Again, super engaging session, and it's just talking about, unfortunately, sexual assault on college campuses is a big deal. I believe it's 1 in 4 women are victims of sexual assault at some point. And I take that very personally. I have a staff of 75 students. So if I do the math, I have usually anywhere between 3 and 5 survivors of sexual assault who are active students on my staff. And so we talk a lot about prevention. So Mike comes in and talks a lot about prevention, consent, bystander intervention, having that student be faced in that situation and stepping forward and doing what they need to do and doing the right thing in that moment. And all sorts of obviously serious stuff, but stuff that's really important because part of these mandatory sessions is ensuring that, we're building a safe and inclusive and respectful community amongst everybody. So those are the 3 mandatory sessions. And there's a fourth one for my first year students. So if my transfer students and families are on the call tonight, the 4th session is not one that you have to attend, but it is for the first year and the provisional student families. And this is a workshop called Liberal Learning the Why. And it will be led by our associate provost for curriculum and liberal learning. His name's Dr. Christopher Murphy. He goes by Kit. And your student, when they received the Welcome Week schedule, should have received a link to sign up for one of 6 time slots. Yes, he's doing this session 6 times, which I have done before in ways. I gave him a little break for lunch, hopefully on Sunday, but he's going to need a big bottle of water to get through that. But he's doing it 6 times because we really want to break the class down into smaller manageable groups. And that will be a session that's really going to walk your student through an in-person experience on how to learn about the domains within the liberal learning curriculum. They're coming to the College of New Jersey. I know they're coming for usually most of you a specific degree, and many of them already know what they want to do. But the benefit of going to a liberal arts college is that we want to prepare your student to not only be very good at their job, but to be very good outside of their job too, and really challenge them to think differently about the world. There's a couple different domains within the liberal learning curriculum. So it's a workshop. He'll do a very brief overview of that piece and kind of the requirements for it for graduation, but then he'll break up the group into smaller subgroups, and they're going to take one domain and apply it to a current social issue. It's a really engaging workshop, and it really just sets a really nice kind of academic foundation ahead of academic welcome day. So those are the mandatory sessions. Those were things that we prioritized and said, you know what, we still need to do these. These are still really important. The other equal piece that was just important is giving them an opportunity to meet each other and to have some laughs and have some fun and to make some new friends. Yes, in the virtual space, it's not what we want to do. But those are the cards that we've been dealt right now. And I'm existing in a very big space of just making as much lemonade out of these 2020 lemons as we can. So we have a really fun thing. We're kicking off the whole start of Welcome Week begins at 11 a.m. on Friday with Playfair. Playfair is a TCNJ tradition. They have been I took over, oh gosh, this will be my 16, 17. Oh my gosh, this will be my 5th Welcome Week. That's crazy. 5th Welcome Week, and Playfair was around long before I even took over. And it's a really great event. The entire class, again, first year provisional, transfer students come on in, tons of breakout rooms, icebreaker activities. Normally you're running around. Now you'll be running around into different breakout rooms and whatnot, but they've done an excellent job of pivoting and creating this really great experience and opportunity to get to meet some folks and learn some more about their friends, new friends in that space. So that will be that's the tradition, and we're sticking to it. So that'll start off our Welcome Week on Friday. And then we have evening programming that's all in the virtual space. So there's a couple of options for escape the rooms. There is Saturday night, something called Boom Boom Bingo, which I said, what's the boom boom part of the bingo? I get bingo, but what's the boom boom? So it's like a live DJ. So there's a host who's running bingo, but then there's a live DJ. So the example they gave me was, if you get called I-24, they'll play Bruno Mars 24 Karat Magic. So very interactive, super fun. There's going to be some great prizes, both TCNJ specific and not, that'll be open for the students. So that's going to be a Saturday night thing. We have a mentalist and a mind reader coming. He's like a mentalist / mind reader. I'm not really sure what that entails. I'm excited to see that. And oh gosh, what am I missing? What's going on Sunday night? Oh, Text Breakers, which is like a really cool interactive kind of trivia, kind of a mishmash of 3 or 4 different types of games and things to do. And that will be Sunday night. So really just thinking about, let's give them a couple things that we can do to facilitate some on-campus interaction or an online interaction, and then the mandatory event. So that was the bulk of it. And I've been saying this for a few weeks. They're not getting everything in Welcome Week, right? So even though we're not fitting everything that normally goes into the Welcome Week schedule into those 3 days, we are going to be offering that over the course of the first few weeks of the semester. So what will happen in terms of the fall is that once we get through Welcome Week, they're going to get an email from me every Monday. Hey, new students, welcome to TCNJ. Here are all of the events that are taking place this week in our kind of extended Welcome Week program that we want you to go to. Perfect example, I've been working with one of our students. Her name is Nicolette. She's our alternate student trustee for student government, and they always host a session during Welcome Week for students that maybe want to get involved into student government, right? We have first year class council positions. We have senator positions in all 7 of our academic schools that are applicable to the first year or the transfer students. So they always do a session, and she reached out and I said, yep, so let's talk about that first week. Like, when would you like to host it? And we'll get the word out. And she just got back to me with a couple of dates and times. We're going to be doing that with a lot of our info sessions that were typically during Welcome Week, and then all of the student organizations that would run events as well. So you're still getting it. It's just not going to be super jam-packed into one spot. We're going to be hosting a couple of events throughout the first couple weeks of the semester, and really an effort to kind of continue. Now, this is a big caveat here, and I really can't stress this enough. I talked to my orientation leaders last week, and random, just kind of anecdotally, I said, what's the percentage of your orientation groups that participated in the meetups this summer? And it was somewhere between 50 and 60%. And I think that there's going to be some students out there who thought, you know what, no, we're going to be on campus in the fall. I'm not about the virtual space. I'm just going to make friends when I get there. And I think there were some people who were probably like, no, this is just not for me, period. That's fine. That's no problem. This is a very, very real, and I told this to every student in my email yesterday. This is the very first example of how you are only going to get out of TCNJ what you choose to put into it. And I have plenty of students out there who are cranky. They don't want to be in the virtual space. They're in denial. I get you. I understand your feels. I'm there myself. I'm looking at having to be a second grade teacher until January 29th of 2021. So I understand this is just really stressful in a lot of different ways, but you have to at some point flip the switch and go, you know what, I'm just going to make the most of it. And your student could sit there and choose not to participate in things and not go to virtual events and just head down and do your studies. And that's one thing, and that's fine, but they would just be making a really big mistake, in my opinion. Just put yourself out there, go, right? Turn on your screen when you get there, right? Don't be afraid to show your face and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I'm really excited to be here and whatnot. But even the shy, even the introverted, extroverted, I don't care where they fall on the spectrum, but they are not going to get as much out of it as we put in. And the faculty and the staff that I've spoken to over the summer, and many of them in student affairs, but many of them across all the other divisions at TCNJ, they have been working so hard to make the virtual experience as best and awesome as they can, not just for the incoming new students, but for all of our students, because it's just a bad hand that we were dealt. So that would be my last caveat with that. So that's what Welcome Week looks like, and that's what the fall semester looks like. In addition to the Welcome Week extension with all those programs that we're not offering during the traditional 3 days, my office will be adding on programs to kind of continue that transition, to continue opportunities to connect. I have a group of about 15 orientation leaders in Griffin, so student staff that are going to stay on to answer questions, to mentor, to facilitate some conversations, some getting to know you activities. There's going to be a lot more to come on that, and I want you to know that we're really committed to helping your student kind of bridge that gap and start to really build connections here at TCNJ in September, really early on to, more importantly. And then, per the president's email, and I talked about this a bit last week, we are going to explore these options of these, I'm kind of loosely calling them spend a day at TCNJ, right? So these are opportunities that we hope are going to get your student to campus for a formal kind of one-day program, get them meeting other new students in real time. We are exploring an academic component. Sean and I were just talking about that prior to going live here tonight, and just really kind of creating a robust kind of day, similar to maybe what they would have gotten with orientation, but less having to be focused on finalizing your schedule because you'll already be taking classes, but more to do with just kind of really starting to build that in-person piece. So you will be hearing more from me in the coming week, from student transitions in the coming weeks on that as well. And then, somebody asked in the chat, I wrote this down and I started laughing. What are the chances of coming back in the spring semester? Oh my gosh. If you know the answer to that, or you have a magic ball, 8-ball that will tell us that answer, please email me at studenttransitions@tcnj.edu because, oh man, I would love to know that. But yeah, I mean, obviously that's the hope. We want you to be on campus. We want you to experience all of the joy that it is to be a student at TCNJ in the physical sense. More to come on that, but we are exploring that if we can bring the students back in the spring, that there will be a more an enhanced winter orientation. So I do plan a winter orientation, but we typically only have about 100 new students moving on campus in January. But if that changes and we're able to bring everybody back, of course we're gonna facilitate and come up with some opportunities to continue those interactions and engagements and opportunities to connect. So I just wanted to really quickly highlight. Let me go back to my notes and make sure that I didn't forget anything about that. Yep. Okay. Cool. I hit on all of the things that I wanted to hit on there. Somebody asked ahead of time about Instagram accounts to follow. So I'm going to wait and I'll put that in the end. I think that, the student affairs one is a really good one. It's, I think, just at TCNJ students. This week at TCNJ is a new initiative that student affairs and the student involvement office, and actually it's a cross collaboration between a few different areas within the portfolio. We'll highlight all of the upcoming events for that week. So there's going to be like weekly things happening from the involvement office on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So following at this week at TCNJ will be really great. And again, I'll throw these in the group chat at the end. And then of course the student involvement office and downloading the ROAR app. Your student's going to get some more of this information. Probably next week or the week after, but just kind of connecting. So all those ways that they can start to connecting with us to start learning about all of those virtual opportunities. I know that the student orgs are so excited to start to meet new members and start to loop them into weekly meetings and getting them onto rosters and things of that nature. So much more to come in that space for that. All right, and then just some nuts and bolts things. Lots of questions about the ID cards. Still working that out. Thank you in advance for your patience. If your student did not, I think somebody jokingly teased that her daughter who did not submit that. If your student did not submit it, don't panic yet. I still am working with student accounts to figure out what's the best way to go about getting the students their ID cards. And I anticipate, again, just the next couple of weeks, we got to get through Welcome Week and we'll figure out what that's going to look like there. There were some questions about the bookstore, and I don't remember, I think if you want to throw them in the group chat, I don't remember if anybody had specific questions about the bookstore. I know that they had a question about the back order. Okay, a couple of things with bookstore. One, the back ordering. That happens. It happened to me. Let's see, I've taken 7 classes now at TCNJ as a grad student. I think oh gosh, probably 2 out of the 7 classes, there was a back order for a book. It's very stressful, especially if you're like me and you just kind of want to have everything set, ready to go. Just sit tight. They usually within a week or 2, I get an update email from the bookstore that the back order's been filled and the book's on its way. Obviously, there was the module 5 of your students' online orientation opened up last week, and there was a whole host of information about the bookstore and how to find your classes, how to find your textbooks for your classes, how to order. They are opening in the physical space capacity. They will be open in person starting on Monday with some limited hours. So have your student reference their online orientation, because I put all of that information in a beautiful little page for them that opened last week there. Also, I know there were some parents jumping in and out about when to order them. So some are going to order ahead of time. Some are going to wait till the first day of class or first week of class. So again, that's up to your student. Painfully, I have not. I have it on my list to do tomorrow. I need to order mine because I start classes next week with the year student, and I am a little late on getting that. But don't panic. I think flexibility is the name of the game right now. So usually the first week of class, your students meeting their professor for the first time, they're figuring out which textbooks to need. Sometimes there are changes, and the faculty member will prefer to have another textbook or say, you know what, we're really not going to use this one. So, feel free to kind of sit tight there. I know that there were also a host of questions about this synchronous, asynchronous, questions for the faculty. How do you contact the faculty? This is going to be a really hard thing, but really it's just taking a deep breath and sitting tight. So I do want to send a reminder out to everybody. The faculty are not on contract right now. So you can email the faculty, and knowing TCNJ, I'm sure many of them are responding to the messages, but they're not on contract until Monday, August 24th. So if you don't hear back, they're not being rude. They're just not in that space to where they're responding to emails yet. And again, chances are, because I know TCNJ is such a great place, many of them are probably responding to your student, but just wanted to throw that out there as a reminder, is that they're not on contract at this time. They're asynchronous versus synchronous. I think I mentioned this last week, but for right now, they should show up when their class time is scheduled. So their courses are going to go live in Canvas soon, if not already, usually within, maybe not until the first day of class. I don't remember when, but they're going to go live here at some point. And I think I did a walkthrough. So if you're new, this is the first time that you've done a session, or if you missed last week's coffee chat or caffeine chat, go back and watch last week, because I did a demo of Canvas and I kind of showed you what Canvas looked like from the perspective of a student. I pulled up 1 or 2 of my grad classes to give you an idea, and there's a Zoom link in every single one. So when your student, let's say they have they're taking Intro to Engineering at 10 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, you're going to have your student get in front of their computer at 9:55. I always like to be a little bit early, ready to go. Hopefully not in pajamas, maybe a little TCNJ shirt, you never know, first week of class. And they're going to log into Canvas. They're going to select the course in Canvas, and then there will be a Zoom link, and they're going to hit on that. And then they're going to pop up, and then their faculty member is going to be there, and they're going to walk them through all the questions that you have right now, right? About, am I going to be meeting synchronously every single time, or am I going to have some asynchronous work? How that works with the textbooks and office hours. And a lot of what we do in that first week is answering many of the questions that you have and that your student has about how the course is going to run. So that's all coming in due time. But I would have your student assume that all the classes for right now are going to be synchronous, meeting at the time that they're supposed to be meeting on the schedule. And then, like I said, if the faculty member decides they're going to be asynchronous, if they're going to meet sometimes and meet other times, they're going to walk them through that. That's also when they're going to get the syllabus, right? So your syllabus isn't available right now, but when the syllabus is available, that's going to walk them through a lot of stuff as well, pertaining and answering a lot of these questions. I'm also still getting the advisor question, so I'll just repeat that one more time for everybody. Advisors are not assigned until the first week of class as well. All right. So lots of big stuff happening that first week. And really, just as long as your student knows the times they're supposed to be meeting, and they have gone into Canvas and they know how to find their classes, it's going to be fine. All right. Health insurance came back up. Quick question about that, because it came up on the bills. I'm going to put in the group chat the link to how to waive your health insurance. So if your student is staying on your health insurance and it is You did not waive it. Yes, it's appearing on the bill. And that link right there will show you the pause tutorial under the student view presentations for students. It's the very first one, how to enroll or waive your student health insurance. And as long as your student does that, it will come off the bill. All right, let me see here. Financial aid. I have no idea who had questions about financial aid. I do know that they have been completely bombarded with questions about loans and other things that are going on. So again, it's just osfa@tcnj.edu is the website, or is the TCNJ email address for the Office of Student Financial Assistance. And I think they're running on like a 2 to 3 day turnaround. So again, just kind of similar to all summer. Thank you in advance for the grace that you're extending us and your patience. And I know that somebody will get back to you to answer your financial aid questions, but that's really the best place to go, to email them directly, and that'll be the fastest way to get a turnaround, and I'm sure that they're working really hard to catch up with everybody there. Okay, Sean, anything about any of that? I'm going to go back and scroll through, but I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but anything you want to add to what I just went out to everybody there?
Well, I think well, that was a lot, and it's fantastic. And
we go fast here at the end.
Yeah, I think what's important, I've been looking at some of the comments in the chat. It is to really encourage students to participate in these activities, and I will say that some of the students who may not want to participate in it because it's virtual, that's not unusual that students may not even want to participate even at Welcome Week. So is oftentimes it's Playfair that is what gets students actually out of their comfort zone. Playfair is a fun, low risk, I would say, opportunity for students to come outside of their comfort zone. And that's because they'll come here, and especially if they know people already, or they're texting and talking to their friends from home. So it's not unusual. Everything you're experiencing at home with your students, if they are sort of feeling like they don't want to engage, are normal experiences. Those are normal feelings of transition. And I would encourage you to, which I saw many of the parents saying, to encourage students to give it a try. And it's about making that next transition, going outside of your comfort zone. And whether that be in an online or in a physical environment, so the anxiety.
Yeah, and I think just kind of piggybacking off of that, if you have a student, if your student right now, your son or daughter, didn't participate over the summer, right? It's not too late. They're not behind the 8 ball here, right? Like we did all this really kind of great getting to know you stuff, and my staff just facilitated these meetups, and they covered a lot of content on the resources and the academic stuff, but it is never going to be too late. So if your student didn't engage, but now they have this opportunity, or they're on the fence, they're kind of like, okay, it's time, like, we're going to be virtual for the fall, and I've got to whatever level of acceptance I'm going to do for that. Dive right in. They're not going to be behind. There's plenty of people in that boat that I hope that we engage with, and that they come out and they start kind of coming to these sessions. And it's really just going to make all the difference in the spring, I'm being optimistic that we'll be back in the spring, but whenever we're back on campus, I'm choosing to believe spring 2021. It's not too late, and just really encouraging them to do that is such an important thing for you as that parent in that supportive role, to be able to really kind of just touch base and try to encourage them the best you can. And maybe your student's not ready to do that during Welcome Week, right? But that's happened. That will happen, right? That's okay. But if your student 2 weeks into the semester, 4 weeks into the semester, I don't even care if it's November, I don't even care if it's Thanksgiving, and they're like finally at that place where they're ready to jump in. And if you need help with if your student kind of needs help with where to start that, well, that's why you have the Office of Student Transitions, and you have the Division of Student Affairs. They don't have to jump into that alone. And I'm more than happy to connect with them and to get them looped into some like I said, the students on my staff that are going to be working throughout the academic year or whatnot. But there's never going to be a point where your student goes, well, whatever, it's too late. I'll just wait till we get back on campus. The earlier that they engage, the better. And I really wanted to stress that home for that as well. So, okay, let me just make sure I have nothing else. We talked about IDs. Oh gosh, let me just see here. We covered all these other opportunities. Just one quick note, that the Student Involvement Fair, I forgot to mention this. Student Involvement Fair is, so let's see, Monday. Oh, can I go back for a second? I'm sorry, team. I totally forgot. Okay. Monday. I talked about the first 3 days of Welcome Week, and I completely forgot to talk about day 4. So Monday, August 24th, which is the day before the first day of class, right? So 8 days away. Is Academic Welcome Day. So quick note on Academic Welcome Day, and I told this to the students in the email, but just reiterating for everybody here. It is for class of 2024. So this is first year student and provisional student requirement. So transfer students, you have the day off, unless you'd like to join us for karaoke at night on Monday night, which is open. Provisional first year students, class of 2024. This is really cool. And the way that somebody said this to me a couple years ago, and I thought that's so neat. So the class of 2024 is only going to come together twice in their entire time at TCNJ. They're going to come together the morning before day one for convocation, and they're going to come together on the last day of college for commencement. And we usually just do this really great event, right? It's convocation. So you're going to start off with convocation. Yes, it's going to be virtual, but it's going to be so special. It's just such a nice event that the president's office, with support of many others, puts on. And it's just really your real formal introduction to TCNJ. So you're going to do that, and then you're going to have your formal welcome from your dean for your school, which most deans we don't typically include them in like summer programming in July because we know that we have this really kind of formal, really nice event that we host for them, that they host with their schools. So then you're going to move you'll get a little bit of a break from convocation. You're going to do a formal welcome with your dean into the school. Then you're going to have a super formal welcome with your department chair, whom most of your students have been working with or at least have met throughout the summer, and potentially with a part of virtual orientation. But again, this is much more of a formal welcome. This is the real deal. Like, we are starting class tomorrow, so it's happening, right? And then they're going to do the department welcomes, and then in the afternoon, they're going to do their summer reading discussion. So faculty and staff across campus also read the summer reading book that your student read. Sweat by Lynn Nottage was this year's selection. And they're going to come together with their FSP, so those 18 or so students that are in their FSP for the fall, and they're going to do a discussion on the book. And it's just a really nice day. It's a really nice kind of welcome to the academic side of TCNJ, right, of your experience here in college. And that will be mandatory again for class of 2024. So it's going to start at 9 a.m. Give a little warning to your student on that. And then that schedule has been sent to them in terms of times, but similar to what we did for virtual orientation, the night before the following day, your student will get a confirmation email with the Zoom links and the meeting ID numbers and stuff for the following day's events. That'll kind of go throughout Welcome Week. So I completely forgot about that. So Welcome Week is 4 days: Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Monday being Academic Welcome Day. Tuesday, first day of class. Very exciting. And then Wednesday is the student involvement fair. So not all of them, but the majority of our 230 plus recognized student organizations will be having booths. They're going to set up kind of like a little booth style thing where the all new students are able to pop in, say hello, learn a little bit more about the club and the organization. And the Office of Student Involvement, and again, this is in your students' online orientation if you want to follow up and just say like, hey, have you been reading this? They created a calculator where you fill out a survey and it'll generate back, not instantaneously, it takes a little bit of time, but they craft together your top 3 recommendations for clubs that you should check out for the involvement fair. So I did the calculator and mine came back: Women's Club Soccer, Catholic Campus Ministry, and what was the third? I don't remember. One of them was the third. Maybe Spanish Club or something like that. So anyway, if they do the calculator, I would encourage them to do it sooner rather than later. The Office of Student Involvement is just a really fun thing to be able to get your student to start thinking about the types of clubs and organizations to get involved. No, it was not Spanish Club. It was Women in Business, because obviously I'm in the MBA program here. So just really cool opportunities. And that's just week 1. And, I know that it's going to be really great from there on out. Each week it's going to get better with more kind of student-led programming, and then again, some support from my office. So now I think I'm really done talking. I always go over. It's always 3 minutes, always over, but only 3 minutes tonight. So Sean, any final words from you before we say goodnight?
Sure. I think there was one question that is hanging out there, and that was about housing for the fall and then subsequently in the spring. And there was also, and I just want to say, this is a really difficult time for us all. And I'm, so on behalf of the College of New Jersey, we're delighted to welcome you. We're so happy you and your students are joining us. But this is not the way we wanted to welcome you here. And so this is incredibly challenging and incredibly difficult. However, we have an outstanding team of people who are so passionate about your students in the college, and they're doing a really bang up job to get ready for your students. And that's happening both in what you see Lindsay and her team preparing, as well as we see with our faculty and our student life folks. So I would say kudos to all of them. And the other thing, but I want to get into that question about housing. So our staff in housing did download all of the housing assignments for the fall and before we prepared for now this iteration of our planning. So if possible, it's her intent to try to put students in, if we're ever able to open, put students into that fall assignment that they had previously received. So that's the goal. And that's understanding or believing that the spring would give us the opportunity to do what we were going to do this fall. If we have if we're in a better situation and we can even have the campus even be more densely populated, there obviously going to be some changes that would have to happen there, where students may have roommates, what have you. But we are sensitive to trying to maintain those initial connections, and so if given the opportunity, we will do that.
Awesome. Thank you for addressing that. I completely forgot. Yeah, that did come up a few times and it didn't make my list. So great job. This was so nice because normally I don't have somebody else monitoring my chat. So that was super helpful. Thanks. All right. So I think that this is the time where we are officially signing off. I just want to again, and I said this last week as well, I just want to thank you all so much. It has been such a pleasure interacting with you. I feel like I've gotten to know many of you over the course of the last few months, doing these, or really only 6 or 7 weeks that we've been doing these chats. But I just thank you so much for your patience, for your grace, for all that you've done to support your student and to support the efforts that my office has been doing to get you the answers. It's really just been a joy. And, sometimes, I've been telling everybody on campus, like, this is one of the best, I'm going to say it was the best group of parents I think we've ever had. And to say that in 2020, I think is just such a huge feat, but that really just comes down to you. I think that you've been incredible. You're asking really thoughtful, logical questions, and I can tell so much how much you care about your student and about wanting your student to have the best experience possible in these circumstances. And as a parent, I understand that wholeheartedly. I've had nonstop conversations over the last week with my partner about my second grader, and you just want to do what's best for them. And I see you, and I just appreciate that. And your love has just come through, and keep supporting your student. I know that it's gonna, we're gonna hit some bumps. It's just the way it's going to go, but they have so much support, so many resources on campus, and we're going to get through it together. I mean, I know that Dr. Foster keeps saying this whole Lion Strong thing, but that's really resonated with me. And we are going to be a community that rallies and comes together, and we're going to make the best out of this, and we're going to be better for it in the long run. And I know it's a hard thing to think about right now, but I genuinely believe that. And because why not? Like, what's the alternative? The alternative not to believe it? Well, that's not really great. So thank you so much for joining. I saw some of you want these to continue. Yes, we'll do something. More to come on that. I don't know if they'll be every week on Sunday nights anymore, although I will miss you. Next Sunday night, I'll be on a call with my elementary school. So I will be thinking of you all when I'm trying to figure out the logistics on my end. But thank you so much. And we will continue these in some capacity. Thanks again to Sean for spending some time with us tonight. I just really appreciate you doing that. And be well. Good luck to your student on their first week of class. Don't be afraid to take one of those first day of school photos, even though they're not on campus. That'll be really cute. Put them in the front yard, do a little first day of college photo. It'll be really sweet. And good night. Have a nice evening. And we'll see you all later.
Thank you for having me.
See you all soon. Yeah. Thanks, Sean. Take care, everyone.